Welcome back to Better Than a Pill. I am super excited for this episode today and so grateful to be here with Amanda, our functional medicine practitioner, hey, and Shannon, our registered dietitian. And we're going to have a great podcast episode. Before we start, I just want to give credit to God for this episode, for making this podcast possible, and to express my gratitude. I really, no words can express that, but I wanted to start off in that manner. And today we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting. And I know this is going to be a really good talk. I know myself, this is a lifestyle that I've adapted now for the past 6 months. So I've been doing it, but I am still new. And I know that Amanda and Shannon are seasoned experts in intermittent fasting. So, and I know a lot of you listening today have heard the term, or you may be doing it. And I think that, I know for me that there's a lot of confusion about it. So we're going to just break it down, talk about what it is, and, and hopefully you'll walk away with some insight from this episode. So, I'll just say, like, for me, and then I'll open up the floor for you guys too, is that I've found that intermittent fasting really has taken the focus off, a little bit more of the focus off about what I'm eating, and kind of shift the focus to more of when I eat and how this can be helpful for my body. And I know that there's many ways that we can do that, and we can talk a little bit about all those things. I will say, for me personally, I practice right now what's called a 16-8. I can't believe I am saying that. I'm super excited. I can say I practice a 16-8. I get excited about this stuff. And that is, I guess, considered the most popular form of intermittent fasting. How that works for me is I will basically stop eating around 8 o'clock, and then I resume around lunchtime or noon the next day. And that's how I've made it work for me in my lifestyle, with flexibility, because as we'll probably talk about today, and I'm learning, especially when we're going through seasons that are challenging, which I am, that we have to always honor our bodies and feed it, even if that breaks your fast and so forth. So we'll get into all that, but I just want to let you guys kind of expand a little bit more, Amanda and Shannon, on intermittent fasting.
The term intermittent fasting, there's so many different types of fast. There also, the one that Amanda and I are going to talk predominantly about today is a nutrient fast, or an insulin fast. And it can often be called time restricted eating. So you may see it called TRE. And so really all we're trying to do is to condense our eating window. So there are studies that show, even if you change nothing, Carrie, about what you eat, if you condense it into a smaller window, every marker of metabolic health improves. So step one is just trying to teach somebody we don't need to snack. And if we kind of look back, snacking came from the food industry. I mean, our ancestors didn't snack. It take hours to prepare a meal. They've got to be out working and farming and hunting, and snacking wasn't possible. We just done that over the last, 10 to 20 years, because it's a way for big food to make money. But for the term that we're speaking of, to improve metabolic health, really the point of it is to allow insulin to come down. So insulin is really the mother hormone that we focus on when we look at metabolic health, whether we're burning fat or storing fat, whether we're going to have inflammation or not, whether our cells are going to be insulin resistant or not, is our glucose up or down. So if we can limit the amount of time that we're putting food into our body, then that's going to give insulin more time to come down. It takes about 4 hours from the time that you eat for insulin, and on average, to come down. So if we're eating every 2 to 3 hours, insulin's never coming down, it's staying up, then our cells become resistant. We store in everything as fat. As insulin comes down, we can tap into our own body fat for storage. Our cells increase their insulin sensitivity, so we don't need as much. And so really that's the gist of it. And during our fast, our insulin fast, we consume water, we consume things, and I'll let Amanda go into that. It's not a dry fast. There are dry fasts. It's not an extended fast. There are extended autophagy fasts, which Amanda may want to speak on. But for our purposes, it's an insulin fast. 12 to 16 or even 18 hours is perfect. and we consume anything that does not elicit an insulin spike.
Thank you. And then just to add to that, Shannon mentions like on average, it takes about 4 hours for the insulin to come down. That's for an insulin sensitive person.
Yeah.
If you have insulin resistance, which 93% adult Americans are considered insulin resistant or pre-diabetic, and 90% of them don't know that they have it. It takes 8 to 10 hours for that insulin to come down. So if you have a breakfast of carbohydrates, glucose processed food, coffee with sugar, which many people do, your insulin stay up there for the rest of the day. That already set you up, even if you don't snack, if you already have insulin resistant. But yes, so our goal is to teach people to just push back breakfast and just many of us eat 2 meals a day. So lunch, dinner, and no snack in between. And we have tools to help people to shut off the food noise, to decrease the cravings. Many people have the sugar and then carbs cravings. And the tea that we are drinking, that we are promoting, this tea here has tons of chlorogenic acids in it, which is one of the beneficial compounds in this tea. It's a concentrated extract yerba mate tea that can increase your own body's production of GLP-1. GLP-1 is produced in your guts that signals your brain, okay, you're full, you don't need to eat. And that's why the semaglutide injections are so popular, because people are able to reduce that craving, shut off that food noise so that they don't need to eat all the time, and therefore they can lose the weight. But the side effects of those injections are pretty severe, because the exogenous GLP-1 agonist is superhuman levels that we're introducing into our body. So it can cause paralyzed gut, gastroparesis, thyroid cancer, among the few. It's also now, have many more side effects that's coming on as well. Whereas something like this is natural. It doesn't have those side effects. And this has been around for thousands of years. And it's pure, it's clean, and it's simple. And we just mix this in the water and we drink it in a fasted state. And it also helps to increase ketone production as well, drinking this tea. So you can also use this as a pre-workout drink, which Shannon and I do. And it helps to improve muscle efficiency and decrease fat efficiency, meaning that you're able to burn more fat, produce more ketones, helps with the brain fogs, helps to feed your brain and improve your muscle production. So that's one part of it.
I just want to intervene real quick and just take it a step back, because I think it's like kind of breaking it down so it's understandable for a lot of people listening, even myself included. So I heard you say it's best to eat in the restricted window two times. And I know myself that I have struggled with that, and will eat up to 3 times. And so while we might want to aim for 2 times, my question would be to you guys, 3 times is still okay. Can we still have benefits? Can you speak to that for a second? Because I know a lot of people that's hard to do.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. So again, when we speak of intermittent fasting, fasting's like a muscle. You have to work up to it. So I always tell people, if you've never fasted, don't be afraid. You can incorporate the Unimate, the tools, just like Amanda said, but start with 12 hours. And each week, maybe you add an hour, you add 2 hours to work up to that window that fits you. Ideally, kind of like you said, the sweet spot, 16 hours is great. Today I'm going 18. I still haven't eaten today just because of my schedule, but I'm not hungry because I have this. But some people do 14, and mine's not always 16. It depends on my day. It depends on when my last meal was. And that's the beauty of it. It's so flexible, Carrie. You can make it work for your schedule. Based on when did you stop eating, that's going to determine when you have your meal the next day. Some days I'm hungrier. I'm going to break it sooner. So as far as how many times you can eat, I feel like, just in general terms, it's easier for women to eat 2 to 3 times in their fasting window than it is for a male. We just can't hold the capacity that a man can as far as food intake goes. And in order to get our proper nutrient allotment, it may mean that you need to eat three meals a day. You may not have the capacity to get it into. I personally do too, but I can eat a lot of food. Anybody that's seen me knows that I can hold a lot. So I can break down my meals and I get about 130 grams of protein a day. So I will get about 65, 70 grams of protein per meal. Whereas somebody maybe like you, Carrie, can't hold that capacity. So if you're getting it into that eating window, then that's appropriate for you. We just want to still encourage that eating window is not a consistent 6 hours or 8 hours of food the whole time. And that you focus on, when you break your fast, it's high quality fiber, protein, and fat. We don't want to break it with sugar and processed carbohydrates and food chemicals. And that when you finish your meal, that you refrain from eating until your next meal comes up. And so what you need to do inside that eating window is going to vary from person to person. But what we can still say is, regardless of your fasting interval and your feeding interval, please make sure that you break that fast with good quality fiber, fat, and protein. That if you are consuming carbohydrates, which many people still do, that you eat those at the end of your meal and that you stop eating and then you break your next, even if it's a teeny mental fast, the same way.
Yeah, so I love when you speak of flexibility, because I think knowing myself and knowing most people, we need to hear that, because how many of us have started on something, and myself included, intermittent fasting, thinking that I need to be rigid. How long is that going to last? It's not.
No,
right? It's not. And so,
it's amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
I compare it to those skincare regimens that you see. That person is promoting this 10-step skincare process. Her skin's beautiful. I want my skin to look like that, but I know I'm not doing 10 steps every morning, 10 steps every evening. So we have to make it workable. And that's such the beauty of intermittent fasting is anybody can do it. Anybody really can go 12 hours. And most people do, Carrie, and they just don't call it fasting. They don't know. They stop eating, They get up, they get dressed, they get ready for work. By the time they get to work, it's like 9 a.m. and they're like, wow, I haven't eaten since 6 the morning before. They just don't call it that.
Sure. No, that's really helpful. And I just want to say that, so I'm hearing 2 to 3 times, and I think we've talked about this before, where we want to stay away from that 6 times a day, because there's value in letting our system rest.
Right.
So for me, the big takeaways are eating 2 to 3 times within that window. We're going to have good benefits for overall health and body, tremendously for insulin, even because that's the key, is what I'm hearing. When you speak about insulin spikes, and you threw that in there, I think one of you guys did, and my mind went to that. I think that, I want to focus back on that. That's where we're talking about eating the carbohydrates by themselves and our insulin spiking up. So when you said, and we've talked about this, I think before, carbohydrates at the end of the meal, that makes sense. I think you're saying, if you break your fast, I hear what you're saying, high quality fiber, protein, fat, all of those things. Now let's speak about dessert. Let's say that somebody has, like Carrie, because
it's not just Carrie. It's not just Carrie. Shannon.
Amanda, thank you. Thank you, Amanda.
Food. I love food.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I will eat my dinner. Let's just use numbers. It's not always going to be the same. Let's say I eat at 6 and then I won't have dessert. This doesn't come right away because your body's full. Is that okay? Because it's still after. And what's the grace period? I know you've said an hour before, but sometimes that doesn't happen, an hour and a half to 2 hours. How does that work? I want to know.
Yeah. So I want to encourage people to try to eat that as close to your fat protein meal, as close as possible. Maybe eat a little bit less. And then if you're going to have that dessert, if you have to have that, and then make sure that dessert also, have some fat protein in it. I mean, we have recipes, with higher contents of fat and protein, and utilize sweeteners that will not spike your glucose, your insulin, like allulose. We love allulose. Allulose can also stimulate your GLP-1 as well. In addition to being a sweetener, and it tastes great. I use it for everything, in baking and in drinks and everything. Literally, I order 1 pound at a time.
Yeah, I have the allulose too, Amanda. I like the stevia, but sometimes that
I
doesn't
mix
happen.
them. So I
Yeah.
mix them because allulose is about only 70% as sweet as sugar. And so when you mix stevia and the allulose, you get the sweetness of the stevia, the GLP-1 and glucose lowering of the allulose, and it knocks out that bitterness that some people say that they find with stevia. It's the perfect combination.
Let me ask you, because I use the stevia dropper. Does allulose come in a dropper?
You can get liquid allulose.
Yeah, it comes in syrup too. They have chocolate syrup.
But I just do the liquid stevia, Carrie, and then the powdered allulose. That's what goes in my coffee.
I am going to try that. I don't like the allulose plain, and I like the stevia, but it's a little bitter. So thank you. Yep. Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. And then sometimes people are going to have desserts without those things, is what I was going to say. Like, it's just going to happen. Yep. It's okay. It's okay, guys.
I want to go back to the fasting, just make one point here. We actually encourage people to be more flexible instead of doing 16-8 all the time, because you want your body to become metabolically flexible.
Yep.
So it's actually good that you don't stay in that regimen 16-8 all the time, every day, 7 days a week. How I practice mine is 16-8, 18-6, maybe 5 days. And I would do a 24-hour fast one day, and I'll eat 3 meals the next day. So just mix it up. So it's just like exercise, right? If you do the same exercise every single day, you're not going to get the result anymore, because your body will adapt to that. So you're not going to, you're not going to get as much results. Same thing with fasting. So mix it up.
Yep. So mix it up, because I've heard that said, and I think Shannon, we talked about that before. I think that's great. Like, and everybody listening today, you can mix it up. How often? Like within the week, or you could mix it up within the month.
Some people do something like they'll do every day a 12 to 16 hours. So I make mine's never the same. But other people will say, you know what? On the weekends, it's when I want to eat with my family and go out and do things. So I'm going to just fast 5 days a week. And then 2 days a week, I'm not going to fast. Okay. Then some people like Amanda will do a 24-hour fast, and then the rest of the time do shorter fast. I'm pretty standard, and I'm always doing a 12 to 16 hour. But some days, again, it's 12 and I'll eat 3 times. Other days it's 8. Today's 18 and I'm going to eat 2. So really it's what works best. And it's all going to depend on the person and their goals and their metabolic health.
Yeah.
If I have somebody that's underweight, but yet insulin resistant, then I'm not going to push for an 18-hour fast in 1 or 2 meals. They're going to need the nutrition, but we're going to spread out the meals, and we're going to, push fiber, protein, and fat. But they would still benefit from probably 14 hours, maybe. So it's going to vary.
Just one more point about the autophagy fast, since we mentioned that, in case your listener have question, what is autophagy fast? So that is just takes place about 16, 18 hours. It varies with everybody. It's just a longer fast. And when that takes place, the autophagy fast allows your body to purge, allows your body to repair damaged cells, recycle damaged cells, produce new stem cells. So it's a way for your body to clean house. So I practice that a couple of times a year. I would do a 3-day fast. Of course, don't start with that. But that's just, I just want to mention
Thank you. Yeah, so there's a lot of different types of fasting, and what Amanda is sharing, it sounds like there's one particular type of fast. Is that when you fast more than 24 hours? And can you say that term again? Because that's new. I'm sure a lot of people, and myself, I've never heard it.
Autophagy. It's just the medical term, technical term for detox. Yeah.
So it's the word is autophagy, self-eating.
Got it. I couldn't understand you.
The cell eats itself. So basically, like Amanda said, it's cleaning out the junk. And you can stimulate. They don't really know exactly what hour that's stimulated, but you can, I think, confidently say, like, even at 18 hours, 24 hours is probably best. But even if you're exercising in a fasted state, you can stimulate it at 18. But the longer you go, the more you're going to get like true stem cell regeneration, true gut healing, and all of that stuff. But you can get a little bit. I mean, I think with a 16, 18 hour, you're going to get a little bit every day anyway.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the various types of fasting, there's 16-8, 14-10, 12-12. I've heard of 5-2,
Yeah.
24
Oh, yeah.
plus. So there's lots of
Mhm.
ways to do it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But working up to those things. Now, who shouldn't fast? Who listening today shouldn't fast? What's
Somebody
wh-
with eating disorder, I would say, should not fast. A child should not fast. I would, man,
Nursing.
yeah, a nursing mom. And there are some cardiac, like, I think it's congestive heart failure. You have to be careful with conditions like that. So obviously, Amanda and you and I can't. We want to make sure that everybody speaks to their doctor first. But even I think safely, you can say most every person can do a 12-hour gut rest. I mean, that's literally if you stop eating at 6 and eat at 6 the next morning, I would say 99.9% of the population does that anyway without even knowing it. A gut
Mhm.
rest of 12 hours, I think, is, I feel confidently saying anybody can do that, even a child, 12 hours, except a
Yeah.
baby,
Mhm.
right? That's nursing. But kids, even Carrie, you can speak of your kids. They don't, they go 12 hours without eating without even thinking that.
Yeah. Yeah, they could I mean, if a child's busy or focused and they're going to be hungry later. Yeah. So that makes sense when you put it in those terms with the 12 as opposed to like a longer duration or a 24-hour.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and then we were talking about things that help us fast. And I know all of us use the Feel Great system, which Amanda was talking about a little bit later, the yerba mate tea, and then the fiber drink, which also helps with the insulin spikes. So they're amazing tools. I always think of, and I know you know a lot more about, and we talk about this all the time about the benefits. There's so many. And look, we're going to
Yeah.
be on here talking
Mhm.
all the time about the many
Mhm.
benefits. But one of the reasons we're on here today is with intermittent fasting, the yerba mate teas. Not only are we taking care of our bodies because of all the nutrients we're getting, but that also helps us, doesn't make us as hungry, is what we're saying, and supports us in many ways. And then the insulin spike, since that's the issue, the other product, the balance, is the one that helps with the spiking. So, and we've talked about that on here before. I remember you guys talk about this all the time. When somebody eats a big helping of pancakes with syrup, they've done a study so that your blood sugar doesn't spike as much. So you can think about, I think of it in these kind of terms. Like if I'm going to have my bowl of ice cream, I can have some of the
Yeah. The balance.
balanced drink, and that's going to help protect my body because I'm doing something good for it where it's not going to spike as much. That's Carrie's.
Correct.
You guys can expand upon it, but that's kind of how
Oh,
I
it's
take.
perfect.
No, that's perfect. It's like you mix this and form a gel like, so it's kind of like coating your ice cream, so your ice cream doesn't go straight into your bloodstream and
Right.
spike your glucose and your insulin. That's what this is. It helps to slow down the absorption of carbohydrates, of glucose, of fat. So that way your glucose will rise steadily and come down steadily. So you don't get that spikes and that crash.
I wanted to just say, like, we wrap it up. If we could end with, if we had to kind of tell people today, like the benefits, like the, obviously their insulin is linked to everything. So that I'm taking away is one of the biggest benefits to fasting is you're going to not struggle with your insulin resistance going to be reduced, and you're going to do your health so many good, it's going to help you in so many good ways. You guys can see the chart behind Amanda, and anything else you guys want to expand on that with the intermittent fasting piece.
Sure. Sure. And, obviously the goal is to improve metabolic health. So it's huge. It also can help with gut health, right? It helps lower inflammation. I mean, there's so many benefits. And obviously, again, the longer you draw out that fast, the more that you're going to add on. Increases growth hormone, increases BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor, that can help with learning and cognition. It can help lower inflammation. So people will see better like joint pain and autoimmune. So there's so many benefits that we're seeing. with intermittent fasting. We've just touched on a few, but such an amazing tool to help people get started with. It's basically calorie counting without calorie counting, and it's free.
It's free. And I feel like it really works well with the people listening today that are over 40, because tell me if I'm right in saying this, typically that's when our metabolism begins to get challenged. We're not
Yep.
able to
Yeah.
break down carbohydrates like we used to. Look, kids don't have a problem. They can eat those things, to some degree. So
Correct.
that makes sense to me. I remember what I was going to ask you, Amanda, with the fiber drink and the balance. I know I've asked you guys this before. You can take that. Ideally, you want to take that first before you eat, but it's okay to take it during or even after. It's still going to help you. Is that correct? Like if somebody's, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And you can take this if you're doing a long fast, you can take this as your meal to feed your gut microbiome, but also to help keep you, satiated so that you don't feel the need to snack. So you can take this by itself without breaking your fast. If you're doing, say, a 24-hour fast and you want to have your balance for lunch, you can do that. And when I work at the pharmacy, sometimes I do that. I just mix this and just drink this, and that'll be my lunch.
That's
So
awesome.
you can do that.
Well, I just,
hunger off.
yeah. So wonderful
Mhm.
tools. You guys know that the Feel Great system, I mean, it's helping me in so many ways, and just want to get the word out there. And so if you are interested in using the Feel Great system, just click on the link. It's in this podcast description. And the company's awesome. It gives you a 90-day money back guarantee on all the products. So if it doesn't work for you, you can return it.
I was going to say on that note, Carrie, a positive for moving forward in 2025 for your listeners is that we are FSA, HSA card approved. So if people
Yes.
have that through their insurance, they can utilize that to purchase their Feel Great system, and they still get that 90-day money back guarantee.
Thank you. And we can add that in. I know that Amanda said that the other day, FSA and HSA approved. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Excellent, guys.
People leave that money on the table, and it's their hard-earned money. So put it to good use.
Absolutely. There's so many ways we can be helping our body that, can help us get off medication. That's better than a pill. The system is amazing. I know a lot of you also are struggling living with pain, and you just want to be able to move more and feel better. And I am here to help you. I've got 26 years of experience in helping people improve their health, get rid of back pain, all of those things. So you can schedule also a WellBody consultation today by clicking the link in this episode, and you will get an exclusive 50% savings just for letting us know that you are a listener. So please join us in 2 weeks. We release episodes every other week on Wednesday, and I look forward to having you join me then. Thank you, guys.